Just answering questions with WAPTech, take 2, because YouTube decided to randomly start reloading things. So here we go. Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court Judge Patricia McCullough tried to delay the certification till a hearing. This was overruled because she wasn't allowed to do that. She did release a rationale for why she did this. And then people later on, after it was too late, after it had been certified, she made this, statement. And then other people found a copy of it and started posting it a couple of days after it was too late and after she'd been overruled by the Supreme Court of the state. And they're acting like it's a new decision she did and she had done a double whammy or something. And of course, they didn't read the time and date stamp on it, which was from before all this. But they got to read what she meant by it. But no, there are some conservatives that keep reposting over and over again this story. I've actually posted, I think, 3 different responses to this. Someone posted under my video, she already canceled her order because she found out it was overreaching and a crime. It was technically outside of her purview. She wasn't allowed to do this. She was overreaching, that's all. Next, a person says, she just effed you up even further earlier. Looks like your thumbs are playing up a little. She reinstated it last night, I believe, because the Secretary of State and the governor lied to her about the certification actually not being complete. No, none of that happened. The certification was done. Period, full stop. They didn't lie. She was told, no, you can't do this. The only thing she could bring up were irregularities and stuff that were already being investigated. And again, I have to repeat this. If you have an election in your state and Trump won, but there are irregularities, that doesn't mean you uncertify Trump winning. That just means you investigate the irregularities, unless they amount to enough vote changes that it would call into question whether or not the vote went for Trump. Same thing for Biden. I'm using the same standard here, and also every other state is, for Trump as I would use for Biden. In this case, the only reason all of you are ignoring this basic standard of does it change the vote is because your side lost. And no, she didn't reinstate anything. She doesn't have that power. She was told no, and that's it. That's the end of it. And that's Patricia McCullough. Someone also posted that I was calling for violence against her, or someone else was, by posting that you can call up the state and demand that she be reviewed for this, for irregularities. That's not violent behavior. You're calling into question her ability to be treated as an impartial judge, because she definitively did not do this because she's an impartial judge. She did this because she wanted to be an activist. And, I mean, they didn't explicitly tell her that, but anyway, next one. Obvious evidence that warrants investigation would be, and then the person gives this, multiple counties that have X number of registered voters showing, that's very important that you said that, but they had over that number cast ballots. And then the guy says, you are a moron. And I'm saying you are a moron, neener right back, because you can look up how you got more voters than registered voters. Again, the listing of registered voters was before the election, that were the original registered voters. A bunch of people registered on the same day or the day before they voted. This is not in the original tabulation of registered voters. The registered voter list has been updated with those new numbers, so the numbers aren't different. And you bring up 18,000 registered voters in a particular area, but had 20,000 votes cast. Yes, because another 2,000 people decided to register to vote on the day before or the day of the election, which is legal in that state. I am not a moron. I'm a person who looks up how that happened, and I don't just use Snopes or Wikipedia. I use the website that you probably didn't look it up on when they updated it. If you won't go back and look up your updated data, maybe you should, so that you don't do this kind of mistake. Also, maybe you're looking up from a website that just makes the assertion and refuses to acknowledge it. Something specific and demonstrative did happen. You might want to read the decision. It's not a decision if you're referring to this lady, McCullough. It wasn't a decision, it was her assertion. She did not make a decision based on finding a fact. She made an assertion based on what she was told to look up off the net and that sort of thing, and also an actual real complaint. Before you assert that there isn't a decision, okay, the Constitution is still the Constitution, yes, and the Constitution specifies that the legislature in each state gets to pick the method. And long ago, in every single state that I can find, the legislature in that state decided to make it part of their Constitution that the people in that state decide it instead of the legislature. Trying to ignore that last step by saying the federal Constitution overrules their ability to do what they were told to do by the Constitution means you're wrong. And again, every state I can find, at least the states we're talking about here, have stated that the electoral college votes that the state produces has to match the popular vote. That's why they have an all or nothing attitude. They're not counting first and second runner-up based on county to designate how they're going to divvy up their electoral votes. The state has a single vote of the people. That's why it's an all or nothing thing. Only a couple of states do a districting thing. This was a very simple claim, and no one disputes the facts around it. Bullshit. First of all, you're misquoting it, while claiming I'm doing so. Second, it was thrown out because it was wrong. Anyway, next. This is why the governor and the secretary of state were in such a panic to certify, because they knew they would lose this case. No, the lady made the assertion after they'd finished certifying it. It's a lame duck attempt. That's it. They certified it. Well, they were in a hurry. No, they certified it. That's the end of it. You seem to believe that this case has anything to do with fraud. Well, it doesn't. The original screamy, noisy, yelling bullshit coming out of Trump and everybody else was the word fraud. I'm just using it because you guys did. And yeah, you are that side of the argument, the losing one. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has sided with their own population telling them how to vote. Donald Trump has been trying to convince several different states to ignore the popular vote and their own fucking laws because the federal constitution says they can get away with it, while their state constitution forbids them from doing it, to vote Trump into office against the will of the people of the state, defying the whole point of having an election. And some of you are okay with that because you lost. You know, I thought it was kind of bad when Hillary supporters wanted faithless electors to ignore the actual vote outcome in their states. I understood it. For a few days, I actually thought maybe okay, fine. But you guys are fucking filthy worse. You're disgusting. I'm actually going to say this. I'm glad that all of the liberals involved ignored those suggestions on the internet. Yes, Trump is a dangerous mess. We found that out. Some of you are okay with him, however, because I'm going to say it flat out. 50% of the population, actually a little bit less, in both him being elected and being fired this time, think he did an okay job. So I'm going to take all of your assertions, literally, just slightly less than the majority, meaning you lost, that we shouldn't assume Trump was a horrible selection. I'll take that. That's fine. But you don't get to win all the time. You can't be always winning. You can't decide that when you lose, you can just undo it. If Democrats were doing this, you'd be up in arms over it. You would literally start a civil war. You would start murdering people in the streets. Trust me, I know this about some of you. You're acting like rabid dogs, like zealots. Donald Trump isn't in power after a certain date. He won't be running the country anymore. And if the Republican Party has any sanity left, they will repudiate him. They will ignore him. And every time he wants attention, everybody should turn their nose away from him. People need to stop paying attention to this little troll. But that's an opinion. What happened is, he lost an election and you want to undo it. You're literally saying that all of these votes, this is the challenge. How could Biden get 70 million votes? or 80. But you can see literally over half the population. You say everybody's against him. He's being ganged up on by a majority of people. Yeah, it's called the voters. But if you're going to make that claim, how the fuck would he falsify 70 million votes? Because a lot of you are claiming that literally nobody voted for Biden. Not even saying it in some offhanded way like everybody was really just voting against Trump. You literally say he didn't get any votes. Do you understand why nobody should take you seriously when you post that? No. About 80% of the people posting these things, I would have assumed in the past, were literally trolls from various countries trying to make the Republican Party look bad. I have a shit ton of friends who are in the Republican Party, one of which is still nagging me and being an asshole on various channels. Or not. Maybe they're just different people. And a few people in person who would be yelling at me if I was still in Portland because they cannot fucking get over themselves. But the majority of Republicans actually flat out understand, yeah, you can lose an election. It's not impossible for Trump to always, to actually lose an election. It's easy. It was a 50-50 split last time, and he didn't get the popular vote. But you'll deny that. You have to exist in a universe where the only way you can lose is if somebody cheats. That's called being an idiot. Nobody has to respect that. If you take it personally like this, then go right ahead. Let it hang out. Let it prove to everybody what kind of person you are. It's like a sports event where your team lost and you can't take it personally. So they cheated. I mean, it's no different. You have Republicans, part of the Republican Party, certifying these votes, specifically in the states that Trump lost in. Trump attempting to literally defy the vote. And every time they do a recount, we end up with more Biden votes. We also end up with more Trump votes, but the ratio gets worse and worse for Trump. You seem to believe that this case has anything to do with fraud. That was the assertion for weeks and weeks. And they use that wording in some of the cases too. You don't have the facts around the case. Yes, I do, because I quoted her, and you can find a link for it in that video if you want to go look, and you didn't, so I'm not going to bother worrying about providing it in this one. If you gave a shit about your rights, you wouldn't be supporting Democrats. Do your homework. By the number of your subscribers and likes, you know you're just going for the bad publicity instead of no publicity. Typical, you're dangerous, and just wait. Let's say Biden wins. Our country loses. Biden won already. I don't know what the outcome's going to be, and neither do you. Saying nasty things to me won't change a goddamn thing. The only reason you're on this channel is because you sought out somebody who provided a contradictory statement to you about somebody in Pennsylvania stopping people's votes from being counted, and me saying that that's bad. And you like the idea of their votes not being counted because you want to take revenge on people for making it to where you lost an election. You didn't lose an election. Donald Trump did. The only reason Trump could lose an election as an incumbent, because you almost always re-elect the president, is because he did something that pissed off a shit ton of people. And they say it. And again, I'm going to repeat this. The majority of what happened to Trump is Republicans voted against him, but still voted for their own Republican people in their state. Next, why do Democrats and Republicans hate each other so much when you are never free? And then this person goes off on a conspiracy theory thing. The Queen of England runs this country as a corporation. She has a post office in Washington, D.C., etc. A string of things that have never been true at all that I couldn't even find a reference to. Somebody's just making up shit about reptilians at this point. But that was about something else. If you don't like the way the election went, I'm sorry you're sad. I'm actually happy it should be over. Trump is making this take longer because he knows it will get him power. Not elected power, obviously. He wants to be a personality again. He wants to create a kingdom of his own. And he knows he just needs a bunch of zealots following him. Trump is your God king now. Go worship him on another channel, please.